Inside and the questions of how that intel was used and who used it. Here's the nutshell. A secret U.S. military group may have misused information on Afghanistan to take out targets, and we're talking about information that's supposed to keep the peace. RT contributor Wayne Madsen taking his usual spot on the bench to sort this all out for us. So Wayne, I kind of laid it out a little bit. Can you get into the specifics a little bit more and give us the nutshell from that point?
Well, what we know from the New York Times piece today is that individual who worked for the U.S. Strategic Command, part of the U.S. Air Force, based in San Antonio, Texas, Michael Furlong, ran what essentially was an off-the-books operation using quasi-journalists, journalists to gather information that was used for this covert operation. And Furlong is quoted as saying that he had his own Jason Bournes who were working for him. I think it's very interesting because what is really troubling here is the use of the journalists in the field to gather intelligence. And of course that puts every journalist everywhere in the world who's covering a conflict zone in potential danger.
Okay, explain that for me a little bit, Wayne. When you say it puts them in potential danger, how does it put them in potential danger?
Well, we have two individuals cited in this New York Times report who were working for these companies, one of which was called International Media Ventures out of St. Petersburg, Florida, and more interesting, out of San Antonio, Texas. American International Security Group out of Boston. The U.S. Strategic Command out of San Antonio is also where the National Security Agency is putting a lot of its information warfare assets. So we have two individuals, Robert Young Pelton, who's covered a lot of war zones around the world. He's been cited. I would note he's the individual who actually first discovered John Walker Lind after 9/11 when U.S. forces went into Afghanistan. A lot of people wondered, how did he know who he was? What drew him to John Walker Lind's attention? Lind, of course, had unusual access to al-Qaeda, including Osama bin Laden. And we have Eason Jordan, former president of CNN News, cited as another individual playing in this operation. And on February 17, 2000, I wrote a story about Eason Jordan authorizing U.S. Army psychological warfare operations personnel to work as interns at CNN headquarters in Atlanta. Now, they were covering the Balkans War. So now we see major media players involved in U.S. intelligence operations.
Okay. You kind of laid out why journalistically there is a problem with this, and there are some serious concerns about this. But even in the military, there's a reason why the U.S. military is a little bit shaken up by this information coming out today. Can you explain that for us a little bit?
Well, I think, we had this issue come up with Iraq, the idea of embedded journalists. Are we really getting the full information out of these various conflict zones? I already cited Eason Jordan using interns from the 4th PSYOP Brigade out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina, as people who are working on CNN News stories. And I think we have to go back and look at CNN. We have to look at all these major media operations and see, have they cut deals with the intelligence community to basically filter news, hype news, engage in propaganda? And I think that's what this recent revelation shows. Now, the Pentagon's conducting an investigation. The CIA, note, says that this came as a complete shock to them. Well, if they're the Central Intelligence Agency, I would doubt very much they didn't know that this operation was going on.
Now, Wayne, the military is kind of pushing themselves away from this story a little bit, too. Can you explain that, why they're doing that, what they're doing exactly?
Well, they'll do this anytime they get caught. It'd be interesting to see how far this so-called investigation goes. We hear it's a criminal investigation, but that's based on maybe some misuse of funds because it was an off-the-books operation. One of the other individuals cited is Dwayne Claridge, who was a key player in the Iran-Contra scandal. And, of course, we had all kinds of off-the-book operations going on there. He worked for William Casey, who basically gave new impetus to the idea of off-the-books operations. Among other things, he was in charge of mining Nicaragua's harbors against international law during that particular episode.
Okay, RT's frequent contributor Wayne Madsen here to join us once again talking about the story. Thank you so much.